Hi-ho.
Hey guys, it's Kermit, Mrs. Fortune, and Emily, and we're back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about decimals. And right now we have out our decimal board. This is a little friendly note to the upper L people. I really find that the decimal board, you guys are all such pros, and the early L you guys are as well, that when we do things like addition and subtraction and multiplication on this decimal board, it makes a ton of sense to you really fast. But what I love this material for is to help us have practice reading decimal numbers. So I'm going to see if you can, okay, so I want to show you that right here in the middle is my unit. And I'm going to put my crown on the board right above my unit just to help us orient ourselves here, okay? And then I have my tens, my hundreds, my thousands, my 10,000s, my 100,000s, and my millions. And then I put a decimal point on this board between the units and the tenths to let you know that anything on this side of the decimal point is a decimal fraction. It is a part of a unit. So here we have the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and the millionths. Thank you, Kermit, for being such an attentive student. You're the best. Okay, so what we thought we would do today is put together some numbers on the decimal board here, and then show you with cards how you would notate, how you would write that number. Okay, so Mrs. Fortune, I think I'll just start off right now with putting some things. Oh, and Kermit, I'm sorry, in the tenths.
Kermit had to go somewhere.
Okay, all right. Okay. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 tenths under my tenths column. And I'm going to put up here that the way that we would write 3 tenths is 0 in the decimal, or 0 in the units place, a decimal point, and then a 3. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so if I wanted to do 5 tenths, would be 0 in my units, the decimal point, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths. Okay. I'll just do a couple with the hundredths maybe. What if I had 4 hundredths? 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. It would look like that. 0 in my units place, a decimal point, 0 tenths, 4 hundredths. Okay, we'll do 2 thousandths because that's what's on the board here. 0 in my units place, decimal point, 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 2 thousandths. Mm-hmm. Okay. Or if I were feeling, sassy, wanted to do 4 thousandths, it would look like that. 3, 4. 0 in the units place, decimal point, 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 4 thousandths. Okay. All right. I'm going to show you a couple of 10 thousandths here. Let's say we'll do. Did you put out 5 10 thousandths, Mrs. Fortune? Sorry. 3, 4, 5, and I'll put the card up.
So I have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, tens of thousands, 10 thousandths. Mm-hmm.
All right, so 0 units, decimal point, 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 0 thousandths, 5 10 thousandths. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll just do a few 100 thousandths. No, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm just going to show you with 200 thousandths, right? 0 units, decimal point, 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 0 thousandths, 0 10 thousandths, 200 thousandths. This is what 300 thousandths would look like, right? And so on. And then for the millions, what number should we do for the millions?
Let's do.
Oh,
where are our millions?
We just have 1.
Oh,
yeah.
Then that's what we're doing.
Yes, we're doing 1 million. Okay. All right. 1 million. Okay. So these are the cards. And it's pretty straightforward when you just have one number in each category. But I wanted to point out, what if I had, oops, those are the wrong color. What if I had 2 tenths, and 5 hundredths. Take this guy away, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those aren't very tidy. Okay. So here I have my card for 2 tenths, and here I have my card for 5 hundredths. And what I'm going to do is line up my 0 over my zeros, my decimal point. So I have 0 units, a decimal point, 2 tenths, and 5 hundredths. Now, what I always tell students when you're reading this is to first look at the number that you have and pretend that the decimal point and the 0 is not there. So if I were just looking at this number, it would look just like 25, right? But it's not just 25. I have 0 units, and here's a little trick, guys. Anytime you say "and" when you're talking about numbers, you mean a decimal point. So 0 and 25 hundredths. I'm going to say the name of the smallest category. So again, this is 0 units and 25 hundredths, because 25 is my smallest category there. Now, what if, though, I added 3 units of thousandths to this? So, I'm sorry. Okay, so I have 2 tenths still, 5 hundredths, and 3 thousandths. So I could stack those up, keeping the unit, the 0 in the unit over the 0 in the unit. Okay, so I have 0 units and 253 thousandths, because the thousandths are my smallest category. So let's change up the numbers a little bit, can we? Okay, so how about these? Let's say we have 6 tenths, 3 hundredths, and 5 thousandths. Okay. So we can stack the cards up, keeping the 0 in the units over the units. And I can read this number by first just pretend for just a second that decimal point and 0 aren't there. And when I look at this number, I say, well, that's 635. But it's a decimal fraction. So I have 0 units and 635 thousandths. I'm going to say that because the thousandths are my smallest category. Yay! Okay. Should we do one that's longer but smaller, or
sure.
what do you think? Okay. You know what I should do? First is also show you this number. I'm going to put the card up now, and we're going to make the quantity of this card on the board. Okay, so if I look at this card, I have 0 units, my decimal point, 0 tenths, and 7 hundredths. So I just read this number as 7 hundredths. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if I added 7 tenths, the card of 7 tenths above that, and then I stack those 2 cards on top of one another, I have 0 units, my decimal point, and 77 hundredths. All right. What if I took these 7 tenths out, though, and I put out 7 thousandths? So I have 0 units, my decimal point, 0 in my tenths, 7 hundredths, and 7 thousandths. So if I were to look at this, just like the same way, I love this, where Mrs. Fortune says, you don't say that you're 0 tens and 7 years old. I'm not going to say that I have 0 tenths. I'm going to say I have 0 and 77 thousandths, the smallest category. So should we keep going all the way over, or do you think we should just hang out right now from the tenths to the thousandths and let people have a little bit of practice?
I think we could, I think it's okay to spend a little time practicing right here, and then maybe at the end show a longer one.
Okay. Alrighty. So let's do you have a number you want to make?
Let's see, what happens if we have 2 tenths, 3 hundredths, and 7 thousandths.
Okay.
And what I like about this is this all feels really new, but it's really not. We're just talking about numbers that are smaller than a unit. And when we go to put those numbers together, we just have to remember to line up our units. The same way we've always been lining up our units whenever we're assembling numbers. And so with our units all lined up, then we can see that we have 2 tenths, we have 3 hundredths, and we have 7 thousandths. And we would read that number as 0 and 237 thousandths. Great. We're going to do a couple for you because you don't have this material in front of you. This is the point where we would leave you to practice with your friends, but we'll maybe just do a couple more so that you can get the idea.
Okay.
Let's do... I've got the same cards over here, so maybe we'll mix it up a bit. Let's do 4 hundredths and...
Do you want 5?
Sure. We'll do 5 tenths, 4 hundredths, and 2 thousandths. Ooh, and then I have another idea for another one.
Okay.
I need a couple more hundredths.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, guys.
Okay, so we have 5 tenths, we have 4 hundredths, and we have 2 thousandths, and we line up our units, and we have 0 and 542 thousandths. Okay, I have an idea, Mr. C.
Okay.
Let's do 3 tenths and 7 thousandths.
Okay.
So now we're gonna see what happens when we don't have something in one of these middle categories. So we have 3 tenths here, and we have 7 thousandths here, and we're gonna line those up. And now we have 0 acting as a placeholder here, the same way that it does in our bigger numbers that are above the unit. And so how would we read this number?
0 and 307 thousandths.
Yeah.
Now,
so we'll see some fun ones.
Yeah, and notice that I didn't say 307 because when you're talking about numbers, and is reserved for the decimal point. So see if you can challenge yourself to do that. So 0 and 307 thousandths.
And for all of our students, if you ever wondered why I insisted on you telling the story of the equation that went with the checkerboard, this is why. Because we were practicing not saying and. This is one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you Are we ready? So I think what we'll do is we'll stop here, and you can watch on Google Classroom. We might put some sheets up for you to practice writing out some of these numbers, or we might write these numbers out in words and have you practice writing them as decimal fractions. Okay, thanks for your time.